The Grand Council chamber floated in space like a massive jewel. It orbited the planet Axiom Prime, a neutral world that belonged to no one. Inside the chamber, representatives from 847 different alien species gathered for the monthly meeting. The room was enormous, with curved walls that reached up into a dome ceiling. Holographic displays floated everywhere, translating hundreds of languages at once. Hana stood near the entrance, watching everything with wide eyes. This was her first time attending a council session. She had trained for 3 years to become a junior diplomat, but nothing prepared her for seeing this. Many different aliens in one place. Some had scales, others had fur, some walked on 2 legs, others on 6. Some breathed oxygen like humans, while others wore special suits filled with different gases. Ambassador Day stood beside her, calm and professional as always. He had been Earth's representative for 12 years. Hana noticed he barely glanced at the aliens anymore. To him, this was just another day at work. Stay close and observe, Day said quietly. Don't speak unless spoken to. Take notes on everything. Hana nodded. She clutched her data pad tightly, ready to record important information. As they walked toward the human delegation seat, she noticed something strange. Every other species had to stop at security checkpoints. There were weapon scanners everywhere, massive machines that looked like metal archways. Aliens of all shapes and sizes passed through them, surrendering their weapons to guards. She saw a tall reptilian creature hand over 3 different types of guns. A floating jellyfish-like being gave up something that looked like a poison stinger. Even the small cute rabbit-like aliens had to give up tiny knives. The security guards locked all the weapons in special containers marked with each species symbol, but the humans, they just walked right past the scanners. No one stopped them. No one asked them for weapons. The security guards didn't even look at them twice. Hana and Day simply entered the chamber empty-handed. Ambassador Day, Hana whispered as they took their seats. Why didn't we go through the weapon scanners? Day glanced at her with an unreadable expression. Because we're not allowed to carry weapons here, but no one else is either. That's why they all surrendered theirs. It's different for us, Day said. He turned his attention to his data pad, clearly not wanting to continue the conversation. Hana frowned. She pulled up the council rules on her own data pad and started searching. There were thousands of rules, covering everything from speaking time limits to proper greeting gestures. She filtered the search to show rules about weapons and security. Most rules were what she expected. No energy weapons in the chamber, no biological toxins, no neural disruptors. All weapons must be surrendered before entry. Standard security protocols. Then she found rule number 1247. It was highlighted in red text, which meant it was a critical rule that could never be changed without a full council vote. She read it 3 times, not believing what she was seeing. Human delegates are expressly forbidden from carrying, manifesting, or accessing any weapons, tools, or implements within council grounds. Enforcement species-wide responsibility. Tools, implements. Why would humans be forbidden from having simple tools? And what did manifesting mean? More importantly, why did it say other species were responsible for enforcing this rule? She looked at the date the rule was created. 87 years ago, right around the time humanity joined the Galactic Coalition. Ambassador, I don't understand this, Rule Hana said, showing him her data pad. Day barely glanced at it. You will. Eventually, but it doesn't make sense. Other species can carry weapons and surrender them. We can't even bring tools. Why? It's not a privilege, Hana. Day said, his voice low and serious. It's a precaution. Before Hana could ask more questions, a loud chime rang. Through the chamber, the session was beginning. All the delegates settled into their seats. The High Arbiter, a being made of living crystal, floated to the center of the room. This council session is now in order, the Arbiter's voice echoed. First matter of business. The petition from the Vorath Collective to join the Galactic Coalition. Massive door at the far end of the chamber opened. A group of aliens marched in, their footsteps heavy and synchronized. They were huge, at least 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin covered in natural armor plates. Their faces looked like a cross between a bull and a shark, with small red eyes and mouths full of sharp teeth. The leader wore a ceremonial outfit covered in weapons. Hana counted at least 6 different guns, 4 knives, and several devices she couldn't identify. His chest armor displayed medals and symbols. This was clearly a warrior culture. The Vorath leader stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around at all the delegates. His gaze was challenging, almost mocking. When his eyes landed on the human section, he sneered, I am War Chief Gorkin of the Vorath Collective, he announced. His voice was deep and rough like grinding rocks. We come to petition for membership in this council. The Vorath have conquered 47 worlds. We control 3 star systems. We have military might that equals any species. Here, the High Arbiter's light dimmed slightly, a sign of concern. War Chief Gorkin, the council does not measure worthiness by conquest alone. We value peace, cooperation, and peace. Gorhan laughed. It was not a friendly sound. I see how you value peace. Every species here came armed. Every species here checked weapons they will retrieve later. Every species except one. He pointed directly at the human delegation. The humans sit there weak and small with nothing, no weapons, no armor, no natural defenses, yet they hold a full council seat. They have voting rights equal to species that could crush them with one hand. Why? The chamber went silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Hana noticed that some aliens were carefully not looking at the humans. Others stared with expressions she couldn't read. The humans earned their council seat through diplomacy and cooperation, the High Arbiter said carefully, just as all members did. Diplomacy. Gorhan spat the word like it was poison. Pretty words from pretty pets. I demand to know why these creatures get special treatment. Why do they not surrender weapons like everyone else? Are they so weak they need protection, or are they so favored by this council that rules do not apply to them? Ambassador Day stood up slowly. His movement was casual, relaxed, but Hana noticed something in his posture change. He looked different, somehow more alert. Warakif Gorkin, Day said, his voice calm and professional. Humans do not carry weapons in council chambers because we are not permitted to. It is not special treatment. It is a specific restriction that applies only to our species. Restriction. Gorkin's eyes narrowed. Why would you accept such an insult? What kind of species agrees to be the only one forbidden from bearing arms, the kind that understands why the restriction exists. D replied. He sat back down. Gorhan stared at him for a long moment, then laughed again. We shall see about that. The Vorith collective demands a vote. If humans must follow special rules because they are weak, then perhaps they do not deserve a council seat at all. If they are truly equal to other species, they should follow the same weapon protocols as everyone else. Let the council decide. The High Arbiter's light flickered. That will require discussion. We shall add this matter to tomorrow's agenda. As the session continued with other business, Hana kept reading about Rule 1247. She found references to incidents over the years, 17 separate incidents, in fact, but the files were sealed. She couldn't access the details of what happened. She leaned toward Ambassador Day. Sir, what incidents is it referring to? Day was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. The times we had to remind them why the rule exists. That night Hana couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about War Chief Gorkin's challenge and Ambassador Day's cryptic words. The sealed incident reports bothered her most. What had happened during those 17 incidents? Why couldn't she access them? She sat in her quarters aboard the diplomatic station and searched through public historical records. If the detailed reports were sealed, maybe she could find general information about humanity's early days. In the council, after an hour of searching, she found something, an old news article from 87 years ago. Headline read, Humans Join Galactic Coalition, First Contact Deemed Successful. The article was basic, just facts about Earth's location, human biology, and cultural overview, nothing interesting. But at the bottom, there was a link to a follow-up article published 3 months later. Unexpected complications during human integration, new protocols required. Hana clicked the link. Article was short and vague, but it mentioned something called the dining hall incident at the council's orientation facility. Several delegates were injured. New security measures were implemented. That was it. No details about what actually happened. She needed to know more. Hana checked the time. It was late, but not too late. She sent a message to Ambassador Day requesting a meeting. His reply came within minutes. Conference room 3, 20 minutes. When Hana arrived, Day was already there. He wasn't alone. An older woman sat beside him, someone Hana had never seen before. She looked to be in her 70s with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. Hana, this is Ambassador Nari. Dai said she was part of Earth's first contact team. She was there when it all began. Nari studied Hana for a moment, then smiled. You found the articles about the dining hall incident, didn't you? And now you have questions. Yes, Ambassador. I don't understand what happened. Why won't anyone talk about it? Because it's embarrassing, Nari said bluntly. Not for us, for them. The council learned something about humanity that night, and they've never forgotten it. Sit down. I'll tell you the story. Hana sat down quickly, eager to hear. Nari leaned back in her chair. 87 years ago, I was 30 years old. Earth had just made first contact with the Galactic Coalition. It was amazing, incredible. We weren't alone in the universe. There were hundreds of intelligent species out there, and they wanted to meet us. Council sent representatives to Earth. They evaluated our technology, our culture, our biology. They ran tests, asked questions, collected data. After 6 months, they declared us suitable for membership. We were invited to join the coalition. Captain Jin commanded our first deep spaceship, the Wanderer. I was the senior diplomat on board. There were 40 of us total, diplomats, scientists, military advisors, cultural experts. We traveled to Axiom Prime for the official welcome ceremony. Nari paused, her expression distant as she remembered. The aliens were welcoming, friendly even. They threw a formal dinner for us. It was held in one of their orientation facilities. Beautiful building with gardens and fountains. There were maybe 200 aliens. They're representing 50 different species. Everything was going perfectly. The food was interesting, though not all of it was edible for humans. The conversation was polite. We were learning about galactic politics, trade agreements, cultural exchange programs. It felt like the beginning of something wonderful. Then 2 aliens at a nearby table started arguing. They were from different species, both of them large and aggressive looking. One had scales like a crocodile, the other had thick fur and tusks. They were arguing about a border dispute between their home worlds. The argument got louder. Other aliens at their table tried to calm them down, but it didn't work. Then the scaled one pulled out a weapon. It looked like a knife, but it glowed with some kind of energy. The furry one pulled out a gun. Hana's eyes widened. They brought weapons to a dinner. That's how it works for most species, they said. Personal defense weapons are normal. Expected. Even many aliens feel naked without them. The council has rules about when you can and can't use them, but carrying them is standard. Nari continued. I was sitting with other diplomats about 20 ft away. Captain Jin was standing near the buffet table, talking with some alien military officers. When the weapons came out, everything happened very fast. The 2 aliens started shoving each other. One fired his gun. It missed, hit a wall, and blew a hole through it. Everyone panicked. Aliens were running, shouting, trying to get away. Some pulled out their own weapons. It was chaos. I froze. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I had no idea what to do, but Jin moved. Nari's voice became quieter, more serious. I'd never seen him move like that before. He was a military officer, sure, but I'd never seen him in actual combat. None of us had. Earth had been at peace for decades. Jin crossed those 20 ft in about 2 seconds. He grabbed a fork from the buffet table as he moved. A fork, Hana, just a regular eating utensil. When he reached the 2 fighting aliens, he used that fork to disarm the one with the gun. I don't know exactly what he did. It was too fast, man. But the gun went flying and the alien howled in pain. The scaled one with the energy knife turned on Jin. Bad mistake. Jin grabbed a decorative statue from a nearby pedestal, something ceramic and heavy. He smashed it against the alien's wrist. The knife dropped. Then Jin used his own jacket, just wrapped it around the alien's face and pulled, choking him until he passed out. The whole fight lasted maybe 4 seconds. 4 seconds. When it was over, both aliens were on the ground. One was unconscious. The other was clutching his hand, which was bleeding from where Jin had stabbed him with the fork. Jin stood over them, breathing hard, holding that fork like it was a real weapon. Hana realized she Was holding her breath. What happened? Next, security arrived, Nari said. Armed guards, at least 20 of them. They surrounded Jin immediately. They were pointing weapons at him, shouting in languages we didn't understand yet. Jin slowly put down the fork and raised his hands, but here's the thing that scared them, Hana. Here's what changed everything. Jin's eyes, his eyes, they reviewed the security footage later. Frame by frame, in those 4 seconds of fighting, Jin's eyes moved constantly. He wasn't just fighting the 2 aliens. In front of him, he was tracking every exit in the room, every person near him, every object on every table. His brain was processing the entire environment, categorizing everything by threat and utility. The council's analysts watched that footage for hours. They brought in experts from a dozen different species. Everyone agreed on the same thing. Jin wasn't fighting angry or scared. He was fighting calm, calculated. He had assessed the situation, identified the threats, selected his tools, and executed a plan. In 4 seconds, they spoke up. They started investigating Earth's history. After that, they looked at our wars, our martial arts, our survival strategies. What they found terrified them. Why? Hana asked. Lots of species have violent histories, yes, but not like ours. They said most species developed 1 or 2 ways of fighting: claws, teeth, venom, strength. They evolved natural weapons and stuck with them. But humans, we didn't evolve any natural weapons, so we made weapons out of everything else. Council found records of human warfare going back thousands of years. We had fighting styles from hundreds of different cultures: karate, boxing, wrestling, archery, swordsmanship, spear fighting. We invented guns, bombs, tanks, jets, missiles. We turned rocks into weapons, sticks into weapons. We weaponized animals, diseases, even words and ideas. Nari nodded. One of the council analysts wrote a report. I read it later. He said, humans don't have natural weapons because they don't need them. To human, everything is a potential weapon. They don't see objects, they see tools for violence or survival, depending on the situation. After the dining hall incident, the council was divided. Some wanted to reject humanity's membership. They thought we were too dangerous. Others argued that we could be valuable allies as long as proper precautions were taken. That's when the High Arbiter proposed Rule 1247. Humans would be allowed in the council, but we could never bring anything with us. No weapons, no tools, no objects of any kind. The rule was designed to make us harmless. Hana thought about that. But it doesn't, does it? That's what Ambassador Day meant when he said, it's not a privilege, it's a precaution. Exactly, Nari said. The rule isn't there to protect us from other species. It's there to give other species chance to realize when they've pushed us too far. If a human reaches for something, anything, everyone knows it's time to back down. Over the years, there have been 17 incidents, situations where someone threatened a human delegate or broke council law. In each case, the human defended themselves using whatever was nearby: a data pad, a chair, a piece of broken glass. Once a human delegate took down 3 armed attackers using nothing but a curtain rod. The rule gets reinforced after every incident. Council doesn't change it because they understand now. And GT, keeping humans unarmed doesn't make us weak. And GT, It just means everyone else knows exactly what they're dealing with if things go wrong. Hana sat quietly, processing everything. Finally she asked what happened to Captain Jin. He became Earth's first military liaison to the Council, Nari said. 3 days passed. The Council debated War Chief Gorkin's petition during closed sessions that humans weren't invited to attend. Hana spent the time studying everything she could find about the Vorath Collective. What she learned made her uncomfortable. The Vorath were conquerors. They didn't join civilizations through trade or diplomacy. They invaded, occupied, and absorbed 47 worlds under their control. Meant 47 species living under Vorath rule. Some of those species had been extinct before the Vorath unified them through military force. They're not here to join the Council, Hana told Ambassador Day as they prepared for the day's session. They're here to infiltrate it probably. Day agreed. He adjusted his formal jacket, checking his appearance in the mirror. As always, his pockets were empty, but we can't say that without proof. The Council has rules about accusing petitioners. Don't you think it's suspicious? They show up demanding membership, then immediately challenge humanity's status. It feels coordinated. It is suspicious. They said. Security Chief Tay is investigating. He's checking communication logs, visitor records, everything. If Gorkin has allies already on the Council, we'll find them. They walked toward the Council chamber together. The corridors were busy with delegates from hundreds of species all heading to the same place. Hana noticed something odd. Several groups of aliens stopped talking. When the humans passed, some watched them with expressions that looked like fear. Others seemed curious, even excited. Word had spread about Gorkin's challenge. Everyone wanted to see what would happen inside the chamber. The atmosphere felt tense. Delegates whispered to each other in clusters. The usual procession socializing was subdued. When Hana and Day took their seats in the human section, she noticed that the surrounding seats were empty. Usually friendly delegates would sit nearby to chat before sessions started. Today, everyone kept their distance. War Chief Gorkin entered with his entourage. Today he wore even more weapons than before. His armor gleamed under the chamber's lights, covered sharp edges and threatening symbols. He made sure everyone saw him walking slowly through the center of the chamber, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. He stopped when he reached the human section. Ambassador Day, he said, his voice carrying across the quiet chamber. I have been learning about your species. Very interesting. Very soft. Day didn't respond. He simply looked at Gorkin with calm, neutral eyes. No claws, Gorkin continued. No fangs, no armor, no venom, no natural weapons at all. Weak bones, slow healing. You cannot even survive in most planetary environments without protection, and yet this Council fears you. Why? The Council doesn't fear humans, Warchief, Day said. Quietly, they respect us. Respect. Gorkin laughed. It was a harsh mocking sound. Is that what you call it? I call it something else. I call it keeping a pet on a leash. You sit here unable to defend yourselves, following special rules that no one else must follow. You are not equals, you are mascots. Other delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, others watched with concerned expressions. No one spoke up to defend the humans. Counselor Vexar, the insectoid representative who had served on the council for decades, finally intervened. War Chief Gorhan, this is not appropriate. Take your seat. The session is about to begin. Gorhan stared at Day for a moment longer, then smiled. It was not a friendly expression. We shall see what this council truly values, strength or weakness, reality or sentiment. He moved to the visitors section where petitioning species sat during their evaluation period. The High Arbiter floated to the center position. This session is now in order. Today we vote on two matters. First, the Voreth Collective's petition for membership. Second, War Chief Gorhan's proposal that humans follow standard weapon protocols instead of special restrictions. Hana felt her heart beat faster. They were actually going to vote on changing the rule. She glanced at Ambassador Day, but his expression remained calm. Before we vote, the High Arbiter continued, we will hear arguments from both sides. War Chief Gorkan, you may speak first. Gorkan stood. He didn't walk to the speaking platform like most petitioners did. He stayed where he was, forcing everyone to turn and look at him. Members of the council, he began. I stand before you representing a species of warriors. We value strength, honor, and equality. When I learned about Rule 1247, I was confused. How could a council built on equality create a rule that singles out one species? I researched this rule. I learned it was created 87 years ago, right when humans joined. I learned about the incidents that reinforced it, and I learned that this council keeps humans weaponless because you fear what they might do if they had access to weapons. He paused, letting his words sink in. But here is what I do not understand. Every species here carries weapons. Every species here has the right to self-defense. You all checked your weapons at security, but you will retrieve them when you leave. You have that option. Humans do not. If humans are truly dangerous, why allow them on the council at all? If they are not dangerous, why treat them differently? This rule makes no sense. Unless the truth is simple, you do not trust humans. You do not see them as equals. You see them as threats that must be controlled. The Voreth Collective cannot join a council that practices such obvious discrimination. Either humans follow the same rules as everyone else, or they should be removed from the council entirely. There is no middle ground. There is no honorable compromise. Make your choice. Gorhan sat down. Several delegates were nodding. Others looked troubled. The argument was effective. Hana realized it sounded reasonable if you didn't know the full story. Ambassador Day stood. May I respond? The High Arbiter hesitated, then nodded. You may walk to the speaking platform. He moved slowly, calmly, his hands visible at his sides. War Chief Gorhan speaks of honor and equality. Noble concepts, but he misunderstands the nature of Rule 1247. This rule was not created to oppress humans. It was created at humanity's request. After consultation with the council, we asked for this restriction because we understand something about ourselves that the War Chief does not yet grasp. Humans are dangerous, yes, but not because we are strong. We are dangerous because we are adaptable. We evolved on a world where we were not the strongest, fastest, or most deadly creatures. We survived by learning to use everything around us. Tools became weapons. Weapons became extensions of ourselves. Our ability to improvise, to adapt, to turn any situation to our Advantage, that is what makes us dangerous. Rule 1247 is not a leash, Warchief. It is a warning. When you see humans enter this chamber empty-handed, you should understand what that means. We have chosen peace. We have deliberately removed the easy option of violence. This choice is not weakness, it is strength. Hana watched the other delegates. Some were listening carefully, others still looked skeptical. If this council votes to change the rule, they continued, humans will follow that decision. We will carry weapons like everyone else. We will check them at security like everyone else, but I advise against this change. The current system works precisely because it is different. It creates clarity. It establishes boundaries. Everyone knows where they stand. He looked directly at Gorkin. Equality does not mean treating everyone exactly the same. It means giving everyone what they need to succeed. Humans need this rule, not for ourselves, but for the peace of mind of everyone else in this chamber. They returned to his seat. The chamber was silent for a long moment. We will now vote, the High Arbiter announced, all in favor of changing Rule 1247 to standard protocols. Indicate now. Lights appeared above various sections of the chamber. Hana counted them quickly. About 100 votes in favor of the change, mostly newer council members, species that had joined in the last 20 years. They probably didn't know the full history. All opposed. Indicate now. More lights appeared, many more. The older members, the species that had been on the council for decades, all voted against the change, but it was close. Too close. Hana's data pad buzzed. Message from Security Chief Tae. Sir, we have a problem. Unauthorized weapons detected in the chamber. Multiple sources. This is not a drill. She showed the message to Ambassador Day. His eyes narrowed slightly. The only sign of concern he allowed himself to show. He tapped out a quick reply. Locations. Tae's response came immediately. Visitor section, Voreth entourage, and scattered throughout the chamber. At least 12 council delegates have weapons. They shouldn't have. It's a setup, sir. Day's fingers moved quickly across his data pad, sending messages to the human security team and the council's security office. But before he could finish, the High Arbiter began announcing the vote results. The vote is 412 in favor of maintaining Rule 1247. 435 opposed. The rule change fails by. The High Arbiter never finished the sentence. An explosion ripped through the eastern wall of the chamber. Then another and another. Emergency alarm screamed. Delegates panicked, running all directions. Warchief Gorhin stood in the visitor section, no longer pretending to be civilized. He held a massive weapon in each hand. The council chamber had become a war zone in seconds. Smoke filled the air. From the explosions, alarms blared. Delegates screamed and ran for exits, only to find Voreth warriors blocking every door. Warchief Gorkin stood in the center of it all, his warriors forming a protective circle around him. 12 council delegates had revealed themselves as traitors, all armed with weapons they had somehow smuggled past security. They moved to join the Voreth, creating a combined force of about 25 armed enemies. Against them stood hundreds of unarmed delegates who had followed the rules and surrendered their weapons, and the humans who had never been allowed to bring weapons in the first place. Hana pressed herself against a fallen column. Trying to stay out of sight, she could see Ambassador Day about 15 ft away. He hadn't moved much, just shifted his position slightly to put himself between the attackers and a group of younger delegates who were huddled behind an overturned table. Other human delegates were scattered throughout the chamber. Security Chief Tay was near the north wall. Economist Wu had been giving a report when the attack started and was stuck near the speaker's platform. Scientist Yun was on the far side near the holographic displays. Cultural attaches Bora was close to Hana's position. None of them ran, none of them panicked, they all just watched, waiting, their bodies relaxed but ready. Everyone stay calm, Gorhan shouted. This can be peaceful. The council will transfer authority to the Vorith Collective. You will vote now at gunpoint if necessary, and then we will begin restructuring this weak organization into something strong. One of the traitor delegates, a reptilian counselor named Vexnar, grabbed the insectoid counselor Vexar. He put a knife to Vexar's throat. The High Arbiter will call for the vote. Do it now. The High Arbiter, hovering near the ceiling, pulsed with distressed colors. I cannot. This is against all council laws. This is do it or the counselor dies. Vexnar pressed the knife harder. That's when Security Chief Tay moved. Hana didn't see exactly what he did. He was there one moment standing still. Next moment he was moving so fast he blurred. His hand grabbed something from his jacket, his belt. He whipped it off. In one smooth motion, the metal buckle catching the light, the buckle hit Vexnar in the face with a wet cracking sound. The traitor stumbled back, dropping his knife. Tay was already there, catching the falling knife, spinning it around and using it to cut through the straps holding a nearby wall panel in place. The panel fell, knocking down two Voreth warriors who were running toward him. Tay tossed the knife to Counselor Vexar. Get to safety. Go. Then the fight truly began. Economist Wu was near the speaker's platform when a Voreth warrior charged at him. Wu grabbed a ceremonial council banner, heavy fabric on a metal pole. He swung it like a staff, using the pole to trip the warrior, then wrapped the banner around the alien's head, blinding him while the warrior struggled with the fabric. Wu took his gun. Sorry, Wu said, not sounding sorry at all. He fired at another attacker, his shots precise and controlled. Scientist Yun was surrounded by three enemies near the holographic display systems. She didn't try to run. Instead, she accessed the display controls and overloaded one of the projectors. It exploded in a shower of sparks and chemicals. She grabbed a piece of the broken projector, still hot and sparking, and used it like a torch, forcing her attackers back. When one of them tried to circle behind her, she yanked cables from the wall and used them like whips, wrapping one around his legs and pulling hard. He went down fast. Cultural Adash Bora was closest to Hana. A Voreth warrior spotted them and charged. Bora stood up calmly and removed her formal jacket. She held it in front of her like a shield. When the warrior tried to grab it, she yanked it aside, making him stumble forward. Then she wrapped the jacket around his weapon arm, twisting and pulling. The warrior's gun clattered to the floor. Bora kicked the gun toward Hana. You know how to use that. Hana grabbed the weapon. Her hands were shaking. She'd been through basic weapons training, but this was real. This was actually happening. Just point And shoot, Bora said. Then she was moving again, using her jacket like a net to entangle another attacker. Ambassador Day had not moved yet. He stood in place, watching everything, calculating. 3 Vareth warriors noticed him and started moving in his direction. They probably thought he'd be an easy target. Since he wasn't fighting back, Hana saw what was about to happen and wanted to shout a warning, but her voice caught in her throat. The first warrior raised his gun at Day. His hand shot out, grabbed a fallen piece of ceiling tile and threw it. The tile hit the warrior's gun hand, knocking his aim off. The shot went wide, hitting the wall behind Day. Day moved forward, closing the distance. He grabbed a chair that had been knocked over in the chaos. It was a standard council chair made of some kind of lightweight metal and plastic. In Day's hands it became a weapon. He used the chair legs to block the warrior's neck strike, then swung the chair around, hitting the warrior in the side. Chair broke. Day kept 2 of the legs, now wielding them like short clubs. He struck at pressure points, joints, anywhere that would disable without killing. The second warrior tried to tackle him. Day's side used 1 chair leg to trip him and brought the other down on the back of the warrior's head. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to knock him unconscious. The third warrior hesitated, suddenly realizing he might be in danger. That hesitation was fatal. Day threw one of the chair legs at the warrior's face, making him flinch, then closed the distance and took the warrior's gun. He dismantled it in seconds, removing the power cell and throwing the pieces in different directions. Then he used the empty gun casing as a club and took down the third warrior. All of this happened in maybe 15 seconds. Warchief Gorkin was watching. Now his expression had changed from confident to confused to something that might have been the beginning of fear. What are you doing? He roared at his warriors. They're unarmed, kill them. But his warriors were learning what the council had known for 87 years. Unarmed humans were more dangerous than most armed aliens. More human delegates were joining the fight. Now every single one of them moved with the same calculated efficiency. They didn't waste energy. They didn't fight with emotion. They assessed, adapted, and executed. A human delegate named Quan grabbed a fire extinguisher from a wall mount and used it as both a weapon and a blinding spray. Another delegate named Mira systematically took apart a data terminal and used the components as throwing weapons, sharp edges, heavy pieces, anything that could hurt. Security Chief Tay had taken down 6 attackers and was working on his 7th. He fought like water flowing around attacks, redirecting energy using his opponent's momentum against them. Economist Wu had rallied a group of non-human delegates and was organizing them into a defensive position, using furniture and debris as barriers. Scientist Yun had weaponized the chamber's environmental controls, flooding one section with freezing air and another with heat, forcing the attackers into kill zones where human delegates were waiting. An Ambassador Day was moving through the battlefield. Like a ghost, he was heading toward Warchief Gorkin, taking down anyone who got in his way. He picked up objects as he moved: a broken piece of railing, ceremonial display stand, someone's drop data pad, and each object became a weapon in his hands for just long enough to serve its purpose before he discarded it and found something else. Gorkin saw him coming. The Wararkeef raised his own weapon, a massive gun that could probably blow a hole through a wall. He fired. Day had already moved. The shot hit where he'd been standing a second ago. Day grabbed a piece of fallen wall panel and held it in front of him like a shield as he advanced. More shots. The panel absorbed them, heating up and starting to melt, but it held long enough. When Day was close enough, he threw the melting panel at Gorkin. The war chief batted it aside, but it gave Day the opening he needed. He dove forward, rolled under Goran's next shot, and came up inside the war chief's guard. Gorkin was huge, at least 2 feet taller than Day and probably 3 times heavier. His natural armor was thick. His strength was enormous. In a fair fight he would crush a human easily, but Day wasn't fighting fair. He struck at joints, at gaps in the armor, at sensitive areas. He used his smaller size to his advantage, staying too close for Gorkin to use his guns effectively. When Gorkin tried to grab him, Day used the Wararkeef's own armor against him, redirecting his grabs and using his momentum to pull him off balance. Day noticed the power cell on Goran's shield generator visible on his belt. He grabbed a piece of metal debris from the floor and jammed it into the power cell's vent. The shield generator sparked, overloaded, and exploded, not enough to seriously hurt Gorkin through his armor, but enough to stagger him and destroy his shield. Now Gorkin was vulnerable. Day pressed his advantage. He grabbed one of Gorkin's ceremonial knives, more for show than actual combat, and used it to cut through the straps holding Gorkin's main weapon. The massive gun clattered to the floor. Goran roared in fury and swung his fist at Day. The blow would have killed a human if it connected, but Day wasn't there. He'd already moved, using the Wararkeef's own arm as a pivot point. 3 days after the attack, the council chamber had been repaired. The walls were fixed. The broken furniture was replaced. The blood was cleaned away. Everything looked normal again, but nothing felt the same. Hana sat in the human section, watching delegates arrive for the emergency session. She noticed how different everyone was acting around the humans now. Some delegates wouldn't make eye contact. Others stared openly, like they were seeing humans for the first time. A few smiled nervously and nodded, greeting, but kept their distance. Fear and respect mixed together, just like Ambassador Nari had said. Ambassador Day sat beside Hana, looking tired. He'd spent the last 3 days in meetings with council security, giving statements, reviewing footage, helping identify all the conspirators. The investigation had revealed that Gorkin's coup attempt had been planned for months with allies embedded throughout the council. How many were involved? Hana asked quietly. 15 council members plus all of Gorkin's warriors, they replied. They've all been arrested. The council is still deciding what to do with them, and the Vorath collective's petition denied permanently. They'll never be allowed to join now. The High Arbiter floated to the center position. The chamber quieted. This emergency session is now in order. Today we address the attack on our council and discuss what it revealed about our security, our membership policies, and our oldest rules. First, I want to acknowledge the delegates who defended this chamber, particularly the human delegation who acted without hesitation to protect their fellow council members. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some applause started, then grew louder. Hana felt her face get hot. She wasn't used to this kind of Attention, however, the High Arbiter continued. The attack has raised serious questions. Some council members have privately suggested that humanity's presence on the council creates more problems than it solves. They point to the violence of 3 days ago as evidence that humans are too dangerous to remain members. Hana's heart sank. After everything they'd done, after defending the council, some delegates still wanted humans removed. Others argue that opposite. The High Arbiter said that humans prove their value and should be given more rights and freedoms, including the removal of Rule 1247. They believe the rule is outdated and insulting. We have invited a special witness to address these concerns. Ambassador Nari, please come forward. Hana straightened in her seat. She hadn't known Ambassador Nari would be here. The elderly diplomat walked slowly to the speaking platform, her back straight. Despite her age, she'd been the one to tell Hana the history. Now she would tell everyone else. Members of the council, Nari began, her voice strong and clear. 87 years ago, I was part of Earth's first contact team. I stood in this chamber, well, the old chamber, when humanity was accepted as members. I was there when Rule 1247 was created, and I am here today to tell you why it must remain. She paused, looking around at all the different species. 3 days ago, you saw what humans can do when threatened. You saw us fight with chairs, with fabric, with pieces of broken equipment. You saw us turn your own chamber against the attackers. Some of you are frightened by what you witnessed. That is good. You should be. A shocked silence filled the chamber. That wasn't what anyone expected her to say, but understand what frightened you, Nari continued. It wasn't just the violence. Many species are capable of violence. What frightened you was the calculation, the coldness, the way we transformed from peaceful diplomats into efficient combat machines. In seconds, the way we didn't hesitate, didn't panic, didn't waste a single movement. That is what humans are. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us constantly. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. We were slower than predators and weaker than prey. We survived by using our minds, by seeing potential in everything around us, by adapting to any situation. Humans don't think about objects the way other species do. When you see a chair, you see furniture. When we see a chair, part of our brain automatically categorizes it: weight, balance points, structural weak spots, potential uses in combat or survival. We don't do this consciously. It's instinct. Every human does it all the time, everywhere we go. Hana realized. She was nodding. It was true. Even now, sitting in this chamber, part of her mind was tracking exits, noting which pieces of furniture were heavy enough to use as shields, which ones could be broken apart for weapons. She'd never thought about it before, but she was always doing it. Our history is written in war, Nari said. We almost destroyed ourselves dozens of times. Every culture on Earth developed fighting techniques. We made weapons from rocks, from sticks, from metal, from chemicals, from atoms themselves. We got so good at killing each other that we nearly went extinct. But we learned slowly, painfully. We learned that survival meant cooperation. That strength meant choosing not to use violence. By the time we reached the stars, we had achieved something rare: a warrior species that wanted peace. Rule 1247 was not created to punish humans. It was created as an agreement between humanity and the Council. We promised to come, unarmed always, not because we needed to, but because you needed us to. That rule gives everyone clarity. When you see humans without weapons, you know we have chosen peace. If you see us reach for objects, you know you've pushed us too far. The rule is a courtesy warning system. She gestured at the repaired chamber. 3 days ago that system worked. War Chief Gorin saw humans without weapons and assumed weakness. He was wrong. The rule didn't make us weak. It gave everyone else a chance to understand the situation before forcing us to act. By the time we had to fight, everyone knew the rules had been broken by the attackers, not by us. Counselor Vexeter stood up. The insectoid elder had been injured in the attack but had recovered. Ambassador Nari speaks truth. I was taken hostage 3 days ago. I thought I would die, but the humans saved me, saved all of us, and I watched them do it with nothing but what they could find in this chamber. He paused, his multiple eyes reflecting the chamber lights, but I also saw something else. I saw the moment when peaceful diplomats became something else entirely. I saw Ambassador Day's eyes cold, calculating, tracking every threat, every opportunity. It was like watching a machine designed specifically for survival, and I understood finally why the rule exists. When humans fight, they don't just fight their immediate opponent, they fight the entire environment. They turn everything into a weapon. The chamber itself became their arsenal. If we give humans weapons, we make it easier for them, but if we keep them empty-handed, we force them to be creative, and that creativity, that adaptability, that is what truly makes them dangerous. Another council member stood. Then perhaps humans should not be on the council at all. If they are so dangerous, why risk having them here? Ambassador Nari smiled sadly. Because you need us. The galaxy is not safe. There are threats you haven't encountered yet, species like the Vora, who see the Council as weak, pirates who prey on peaceful traders, disasters that require quick thinking and adaptation. Humans are good at handling chaos. We've been doing it for our entire history. The rule ensures we use that ability only when necessary. It creates accountability. Every time a human delegate reaches for an object, everyone watching knows something has gone wrong. The rule makes our actions visible, predictable, controllable. Former War Chief Gorhin was brought into the chamber and restraints. He'd requested to speak at the hearing. Guards positioned him near the center, surrounded by weapons pointed in his direction. I was wrong, Gorkin said, his voice subdued. No more boasting, no more pride. I studied humans for 2 years. Before coming here, I watched your entertainment programs, your movies, your games, your sports, all celebrating violence and combat. I thought it was fantasy, primitive wish fulfillment. I was completely wrong. It wasn't fantasy. It was memory. You weren't making up stories about heroes who could fight armies with improvised weapons. You were remembering that every single human is capable of exactly that. Your entertainment is an escape from reality. It's training, constant cultural training that reinforces the skills your ancestors needed to survive. He looked directly at Ambassador Day. When you fought me, I had every advantage: armor, weapon, strength, size. You had nothing, but you didn't fight like someone with nothing. You fought like someone with everything. Because to you, everything in that chamber was a tool. I was fighting one opponent, you were fighting with an entire arsenal. I couldn't even see. The Voreth respect. Strength above all, Gorkin continued. I see now that strength comes in forms we didn't understand, the strength to stay peaceful when violence would be easier, the strength to walk unarmed among armed species, the strength to know you could kill everyone in a room but choosing not to. That is true strength. The Voreth have much to learn. The High Arbiter pulsed with thoughtful colors. Thank you, Warchief. Guards returned him to custody as Gorkin was led away. The High Arbiter addressed the chamber. We will now vote on 3 proposals. First, should Humanity's Council membership be revoked? The vote was quick and decisive. Only 12 members voted yes. Hardliners who had never trusted humans